says, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, which was Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite countries to the great sea on the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so will I be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. And I'm going to stop right there for now, 1 through 5. And I'm just going to talk about what's going on right now for a little bit. So, we call them the Israelites or the children of Israel, same thing. They were wandering in the desert for 40 years. So God promised them this land. And God said, you're going to get this land. Because they escaped Egypt and the Pharaoh. Y'all know that story about the Red Sea parting, and they escaped. And they didn't have a place that was their own. So God promised them this land, and the land was in Canaan. And they were supposed to go there. However, they had some disobedience and they lacked faith to think that they could go into this land and conquer this land. So therefore, they was wandering for 40 years in the wilderness because of that. And when I read it, I was like, wow, these people were supposed to go 39 years before. And 40 years later, they still ain't going. But their seed is going. Because God made the promise. But however, it just makes me think of what are we holding up ourselves from? What promises are we keeping from ourselves because we have disbelief and disobedience? And those two things, and they stand out. I'm like, wow, just the lack of faith, which He's already given us, a mustard seed of it, and that's all that you need. I mean, you should build that faith. You shouldn't be grown with the still little mustard seed, but the point is, you have a measure of faith. Everyone is given a measure of faith. So you don't have faith, even though He said to the children of Israel, this is your promised land, and I'm going to give it to you. But because you didn't believe and you was being disobedient, you got to wander for 40 years. And I'm going to still pass it on, but you ain't even going to get there. Your leader is not even going to take you there. He died as well. Moses died. He wasn't able to go into the land. So at this point, this is when Joshua comes on the scene. And Joshua is very different from Moses, even though he was Moses' aide for all this time. But when it's time, when leadership comes and God strategically places people, He needs you for an appointed time to do an appointed thing. That's why we can't get caught up in being like everybody else. Because we're individuals for a reason. We have a purpose. God want to use you this way, and He need to use you this way. And that's why it's important to stay true to who you are, because Joshua was a fighter. And we can ready to go and possess the land. How many of y'all know that's going to be a fight? Because there's people that lives there now. We have to get them out of there. God promised it to us. So He told Joshua, it's your time. You got to lead this new generation. So think about it. Everybody that was before had died off. And now it's time to go into the land. So that's people's parents, people's grandparents, whoever that was in that mix. It was millions of people. All of those people had to die off and for this new generation to come in. And when you think about that, we have to be careful of the example that we set for our new generation. So the wandering, thank God, the children of Israel started to obey God and His law after they wandered for 40 years, though. But the example that they set at first, think about that. They was disobedient, they lacked faith. They was complaining about everything. How we gonna eat? We out here in this wilderness. I mean, God brought manna down. I mean, he worked miracles while they were out there. But the point was, they were some murmurs and complainers. And we gotta look at ourselves. What are we teaching our children? We might say one thing and do something different. And if you know it or not, what you show them and what you do is teaching them how to cope with everyday things. God, how do you think about God? I'm showing you how to think about God. I have talks with my daughter all the time, and if she says something that's negative, it could be something small, like, oh, we ain't gonna get that, be like, we ain't doing that negative spirit. We gonna get that. She know, I'll say it in a minute, we not gonna do that. It's just because the way that I think about it, it's gonna fall on her, and she's gonna think about it. And those are generations and seeds to come. And you gotta watch how you handle these youth, because they're the new generation that's going to possess the land. And so if we negative and we handle marriage wrong, I mean, God, marriage, finances, anything that you want to look at day-to-day basis, we're showing them how to handle it. And we're a big spender, and everything we get, it goes through our hands. We're showing them that that's the way to go. Oh, I'll just beg for everything that I need, but I'll go ahead and get what I want. That's showing them, that's giving them an example of what to do. If you take a real good look at yourself right now, you're going to see some traits or some stuff that you do, whether you like it or not, in your kids. And you're going to be like, oh, dang, I need to correct that, because that ain't good. Because you know what you're dealing with yourself and the habits that you have. So it's something to think about. And when you think about it like that, the Lord said, I'm going to take you to this new land, but those old ways can't come in this new land. So all that got to die out. There's some purging that's that has to happen for me to even give you the promise. So what are we holding up? Ourselves because of disbelief and disobedience. We hold up a lot of things. So I'm going to go back now. I'm going to go to Joshua, the same chapter 1. I'm going to start at the 6th verse now, because these are instructions that God has given to Joshua. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their forefathers to give it to them. Be strong and courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave to you. Do not turn from it to the right or the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And if you pay attention to that scripture, he told them, be courageous and be strong and courageous 3 times. Just in that little bit of passage from 6 to 9. Be courageous. Be very courageous. Be strong. Be courageous. Because what they were getting ready to go into, they needed strength. Not just physical strength, but inner strength. Because what the 4 people lacked was inner strength. That's why they was disobedient, didn't have faith. They didn't believe that they could go do it. So be strong. And then they had this leader, Joshua, who was a fighter. So there you go. I'm going to send this fighter, and they're going to go in and conquer this land. God will prepare you for where you're going. So my title for today is Be Strong and Courageous, because it might get hard. Several things happened through this story when they were going into the possessed land. They had to follow specific instructions for each time they went to take a territory. And one fight I remember I was reading about was like the Lord let the light stand still. I mean the sun just stayed out until the battle was over. And I'm like, wow. I mean, he said he was going to be with them, but he didn't say that you didn't have to fight. So that's the thing. It was a fight to conquer each part of the land. And as I read down, At the end it said it was 31 kings that was defeated. And by the time they got through everything, Joshua, he passed away and everything, but that was a fight to possess the land. It's yours, but you might gotta fight for it. And how many of us is willing to fight for something? Most of the time we throw in the towel the first time, it just, oh no, that's too much. That's the way of thinking that we caught up in. And that's the same thing that got the first group cast out. Nope, y'all gonna wander for 40 years because you don't want to listen. You hard-headed and you complain all the time. And that's the thing. The minute something get a little bit tough, it's like, oh, I don't want to do that no more. And in his instructions, he said, don't turn to the left or the right. That means don't adjust the rules. Right. These are the rules. Right. Don't try to find a loophole. Don't try to make it, oh, well, that's because it's this. No, it's not, oh, well, that's because nothing. These are the rules. Don't turn left or right. He was specific in what he said do. Meditate on it. Don't be scared. Don't be discouraged. You're going to get it. Even if the fight gets tough, that's okay. I promised you this land. You gotta go and you gotta conquer it, but it's yours though. And then that makes you think, if I know that the Lord is gonna give me this thing, and He's telling me be strong and courageous, it's a fight in it. Am I willing to go through the fight for the end result? Is it that important to me to get the end result? Or I'm just gonna sit here and just be like, man, forget it, I don't care. I don't want it that bad. If I have to go through something. He never told us that this walk with Him is going to be easy at all. This is a perfect example. Joshua was constantly fighting. 31 kings, he was going through this land. I mean, even when the angel of the Lord came, Joshua was like, oh, whose side you on? What you doing? Why you here? Yeah. I mean, just off the, look, he was ready. He was ready. And the new generation was ready. They was obedient. They was listening. They wanted to go in and get this land. Just think about it. Their parents or their grandparents or whoever couldn't do it. So they like, I owe it to myself to go ahead and do this fight and fight this fight so I can see it. So we can finally have somewhere that's ours. Somewhere that we can call our own. And we're not wanderers and drifters and the people that nobody wants. You don't have a spot. And land was what they had. I mean, think about the thing of having a piece of territory or a piece of land. Land is not something that you just gonna keep building. Land is land. This is it. This is the world. This is the land that we have right now. It ain't like I could just go build another house. Like, oh, houses, they come and they go. But this is the land. And if I own this piece of land, then I have a place that's mine. And God gave him this long range of land. Like, this was a big piece of land. Anytime you had to slay 31 kings to get in there. I mean, we have to think about that. And that's just the basis of my message. What are you willing to fight for? Are you willing to go through the fight? He said, I'll be with you. Wow. I'll never leave you or forsake you. But you might got to fight for this thing. Are you willing to fight for it, or you just gonna let it go? And that's with anything in our lives. We got to think about that. And we got to think about the examples that we set. It's Youth Sunday. I want to hone in on those examples that we set, because we hear parents sometimes say, well, do as I say, not as I do. No. You have to lead by example. You got to show up. You got to do the same thing that you're trying to push them to do. That's what you need to be showing them. Because if you're doing any and everything, you teaching them, oh, you can do any and everything. You'll still get by. Or I only like this, I only like that. I mean, you got to think about these things that you're passing on. And some of the benefits that you will get, you can't even get them because of your ways. And you're going to block your kids too, because they're going to get that same thing. And they're going to have those same ways. So now you're blocking a generation. And that's how you have generational curses. Because then they teach their kids the same thing. And whose seed is it going to go to by this time? I mean, we could turn this thing around and have generational blessings. Well, yeah, you might not have been able to go through, get in there, get in that land, but the kids going in the land. Mm-hmm. And I thank God, and through how they learn how to be obedient, the new generation, is because as they were in the wilderness, the Israelites started to obey the law. But at that time, it was too late for them. But at least the kids had an example of what obeying the law was. So when they go into it, they're listening to what the Lord tells them to do. So I didn't want to leave there like the kids didn't know how to, but they knew because their parents, the forefathers, started acting like, oh, okay, after we wandered for 40 years though, now we gonna act right. Do the Lord have to make us wander for that long for us to act right? I mean, that's the hard part right there. How long we gotta spin around in the same circle until we get it? Until we get it. And then by the time is it gonna be too late? So some things you might have to fight for. And the end of my message is be strong and courageous. Because some stuff you got to fight for. Amen. Amen.